Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Uncomplication. I'm Ryan, and I am joined by one of my favorite people. I'm very excited to have today, Leah Pearlman, joining me on the show. Leah is someone who I met through this crazy unfolding, through crypto, through YouTube, and we've become really good friends. And she's done a lot to help me just sort through my experience and emotions as I've gone from whatever I was previously to how I stand before you today. And there's been a lot of, ups and downs in this road. This YouTube channel has been kind of a wild experience for me. So Leah is a clarity coach, and she has spent a lot of her own time going inward and outward to discover people and tools and ways of approaching life that allow us to flow and not get hung up on this or that emotion. So Leah, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Could you maybe start off by, what's your perception of our relationship or how this fits into your life and the things that you do?
Yeah, great. Well, so I'll just say probably like a lot of people watching, I first met you, Ryan, through my interest in crypto. And you posted a crypto video that I was interested in. But what was more interesting to me was the next video that you posted right after that, where you started to explore your thoughts and feelings related to crypto. And I'm someone who I have interests in the tangible world, but I'm most interested in the intangible. What are the mental and emotional knots we tend to tie ourselves in? And rather than solving them internally, in the mental, emotional realm, I and most of us go out in the world and try and make the world different or better so that we can feel okay inside. And I spent about the last 10 years just deep in my own work, coaching other people, coaching groups, learning to take whatever seems to be happening in the outer world, and then use that as a mirror to see what's happening internally and start to kind of untangle the internal knots so that we can meet the world with more clarity and come to the world with more inspiration and openness and possibility, as opposed to, I have a problem I need to fix and I better do it quick or I'm going to have to keep feeling bad. So that's the lens I look at. And so when I saw you, Ryan, both grappling with this external, let's just call it chaos for those of us who follow the crypto market, of crypto. And then also, wait a minute, this is having all these internal impacts. That's when I felt really drawn into the conversation that you and your friends were having, because I think that anything, it could be crypto, it could be pandemics, it could be vaccines, it could be war, anything that's happening in our internal world will show us where we have fear, anger, grief, desire, joy that we haven't looked at or processed. And so I really like the intersection of what you brought to your YouTube channel of this crypto world and also the internal world that crypto can trigger, let's say. So yeah, I think for people watching, whether you're interested in crypto or not, this conversation could be really interesting.
Yeah. And as you talk, I realize how much of the content that I have put out has been influenced by you. You came into the crypto garden, you started attending calls, then you started actually facilitating the calls. And there were some really magic moments on those where we had groups of people that were all coming together in times of, in some cases like panic. There were some really rocky spots in the crypto market in 2021. And I just remember these sessions where we'd all be sharing our feelings, and you had this way of reflecting to us and yourself how these emotions weren't good or bad. They were just what they were. And in times that I would get up and like talk about like the negative power of fear, you would say things like, well, let's actually look at what that fear is doing. And maybe it's not bad. Maybe it's useful. Maybe it's, so there was a lot that kind of reframed my thinking from us against them or me against myself into this more holistic view of how we in the world are really inseparable, and that a lot of times the conflict or the problems are arising from maybe the way that we're posturing against it or fighting against it. And so, yeah, one of the things that's been really beneficial to me is being able to check in with you as, in crypto, and then in just understanding this YouTube channel, and, kind of my path forward, how those same principles that apply to crypto trading are also applying to what am I going to do today? What's the right thing for me to be doing? Where's my resistance? What am I trying to change or overcome? And so I don't know necessarily how this conversation is going to unfold, but I hope that we can kind of talk about some of these mindsets and even methods that you have for, in any moment, in any situation, taking inventory of how you're feeling, and actually not fighting it or resisting it or trying to change it, but just welcoming it and flowing forward.
Yeah, that sounds great. And just for the people that are watching, one of the contexts of this conversation is Ryan and I have been spending time together. Our families have been spending time together. And Ryan's been in some questions about, what do I do with my YouTube channel? Where does crypto fit in? Where does my art fit in? And just in these questions, and we've been having them, offline. Mm-hmm. But I thought it could be fun to just come and have this conversation. And because, Ryan, you're someone who's so open and willing to kind of share your internal process, I thought it would be interesting to, rather than have you, navigate it privately and then come back to YouTube, here I am, here's the new version in the new direction, just to share the process with everybody along the way. And so one of my thoughts for this conversation might be interesting for you to share a little bit about some of the questions you've been asking, and then I can facilitate you on sort of untying some of the knots in there, and then we can talk about what we did afterwards.
Yeah. I love it. So you want me to just kind of talk about where I've been and some of the challenges as I've perceived them?
Yeah. And maybe specifically, I think you mentioned you haven't posted a video in a while. Is that right?
Yeah.
So maybe just talk about why is that, and what are some of the thoughts that have been swirling as you've either tried or not tried, or as you wondered about how to come back to YouTube.
Totally. Yeah. So great starting point. And as you said, Leah, it's been almost 2 months since I've posted anything. And I left on a trip that was about 2 weeks of a road trip. And a lot of that was just on my own. And I was actively trying to find, where is my North Star? What is really my motivation in coming on YouTube and saying anything at all? The crypto thing was very unexpected. It was really amazing to have a viral video, and then all of these wonderful people turn up. I mean, yourself included, and a lot of others. There's been some great relationships here and some great conversation. But I've been struggling with this. How is the world pulling me down a path that doesn't feel right? And I would get these intuition or just feelings as I got more into like posting crypto. And this is the expectation on me, posting crypto videos multiple times a week, that when I would do that, I just wouldn't feel well. And the process was difficult. People don't realize this, but for every video I have on YouTube, there's probably 6 that I recorded that I haven't posted. And so part of it is that I'm just constantly struggling with my own, I don't know if it's like perfectionism or just wanting to feel like what I'm putting out is worth people's time. But there's always that resistance that I'm not sure what my next thing is to do. And it's been in part because I haven't had, I guess, permission to pick a direction and just go forth, right? So I post something, it's not about crypto, and I have people that are, outwardly saying, hey, brutal honesty, but crypto's all I'm here for. It's like, great, I understand that. I've also been pretty clear that that's not the only side of me, and I want to go over here. So that's where the knots kind of came in. Uh-oh, my battery died. There we go.
Okay.
Quick battery change. I will summarize by saying that it has been kind of a life's dream to have an audience to share all of my creative output, which is plentiful. And then to have that come at a time where I was really lost in my identity, having just lost or, left a 10-year kind of identity as a tech founder and doing all this stuff, and then not having that, and then getting into crypto and, all of a sudden being in front of 100,000 people, and then having, personal challenges. It's just been trying to look into that really murky crystal ball and plot a course forward. And does that give you enough threads to pull
that's
on?
great. Yeah. So I said I was going to explain what I'm doing at the end, but I may just sort of weave in some explanation as we go also. So the first thing I'll share is, while I'm listening to you, what I'm listening for is beliefs. So when I heard you say, I was writing a few things down, needing to find my North Star. And so for you and anyone else listening who has this, like, I need to find my purpose, or what's my direction, or I need to get it right. Just in this moment, can you first just start to notice what it feels like to believe you need to find your North Star? And it's kind of like a meditation. What happens in your body when you believe I need to find my North Star? Does it feel open? Does it feel tense? And since I'm facilitating you, Ryan, just what comes up.
It feels like tightness. It feels like I'm in the center of all of these possible outcomes, and I'm not able to pick one because I'm afraid that it might not be right. Mm-hmm. And so there's this kind of seizure of, I don't want to do the next thing wrong because it might lead me in a direction that's not my North Star. So,
So just for right now, in this moment, just let yourself feel what it feels like, that tension. I need to find my North Star. I need to hurry and find my North Star. I'll make a mistake if I don't find my North Star. Just start to notice what that feels like. And then just as best you can, just see if you can let that go a little bit. Just open to the possibility you don't need to find your North Star to find your North Star. And then what comes up when you start to allow or release that directive?
Yeah. We've had this conversation a number of times, and you're right. I know what it feels like to sit in that kind of striving for purpose. And then I think I'm also familiar with this feeling of when I let that go, but then it feels a little bit directionless. Mm-hmm. It feels like, okay, there's not this huge need. There's not a burning, I'm the only person who's making it feel this way, that there's urgency. And then I think I will go back to my normal patterns, and I'll focus on the things that I really enjoy doing. And then it will come where I'm like, wow, 2 months have gone by. This opportunity is over here. It still feels big and special and a path forward. And then I think those patterns start kind of creeping back in.
Yeah. So we'll break that down a little bit. So a lot of us feel like, I need to find my North Star. I need to find my direction because we're afraid of the alternative. I heard you say directionless. So what if you just allow yourself, you haven't posted in 2 months, there is some directionlessness. So what if you just let that be here? Just notice the directionlessness and just let yourself feel directionless as best you can. And what do you notice? Either sensations, emotions, or thoughts arise when you let yourself be directionless?
It's calming. It feels like it takes me off of a timeline where there's then and where I'm going. It just kind of puts me right here. Mm-hmm. And it feels creative. because if there's no direction, then it's only possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just taking a moment, sometimes the mind would label directionless as a problem. And right now you're experiencing it as an open space, a birthplace of creativity. Mm-hmm. So just noticing that's one flavor of directionless. And then I also heard you say, and then in 2 months, I'm going to end up right back here. So I noticed there was some fear, like, okay, I'll be directionless, but not for too long. So see if you can just notice that there's part of you that has a fear of directionlessness, even though it feels good right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what if in just this moment, you let yourself feel afraid of being directionless? Let the fear, like, what if I never find direction? Let that arise. And as you're doing that, I'll just say for most of us, when fear arises, we want to fix it, get rid of it, find a solution. But in this practice, we're just feeling the fear the same way we'd feel a hot tub if we were getting in it. We just feel it.
I notice that it's very attached to my sense of self and my sense of self-worth and importance. And it feels like to not find that direction or accomplish what I know I'm capable of, that is the ultimate failing of oneself, to be in the world and not, I mean, to put it kind of in a cliche, like living to your full potential. Mm-hmm. There's almost a guilt, and it's very personal. And it is a fear. It's the fear that we only get to live once. And we see all these examples of things we could be doing, and some of those look really appealing, and we know that we're capable of it. And then it's frustrating when things don't work out that way, or you have to settle into your own limitations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I hear in that is, if I don't find direction, and if I don't find it, I, the controller, if I don't find my direction, at some point, I'm going to live a life of regret or unfulfilled potential. Does that summarize what you just said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and just to notice, most of us, let's say you have a thought like, I should post a YouTube channel, or sorry, I should post a YouTube video. We think it's about the YouTube video, but what I'm hearing, there's actually a fear of a failed life that's underneath that. So it seems like this, should I post, shouldn't I? But the reason it's so stressful is that's not really what you're saying. When you're wondering, should I post? What should I post? How should I post? Underneath all of that is, what if my life amounts to nothing? And so it's actually very valid to feel stressed, even though it seems like something that's maybe not that big a deal, because it's the root of it. Let's like use a tree for analogy, where the branches are, what should I create today? But the root is, I don't want to waste my life.
Yeah. As you're speaking, for me in this particular situation, I feel like I am living a wonderful life, and the conversations I have are so filling, and the art I'm making, I'm enjoying, and there's this whole flow that I feel like I'm just right in the center of, and it's my desire to share that. And it's as if I'm walking through this beautiful orchard of all these trees bearing fruit, all of these conversations, and you're one of them. And we've had all of these amazing conversations. And I feel like there's so many people who would benefit from that I want to, pluck that fruit and share it. And then trying to do that, it's too far away, or I can't climb the tree, or it actually, changes the thing that I'm trying to share. So I say, okay, I'm just going to step back. I'm just going to enjoy it for myself. And I mean, part of what I've been grappling with is it my own ego that feels that I have to share these great things that I'm a part of to validate that experience? If it's just my experience, it's really kind of one-dimensional. But to be able to like record conversations or share experiences, it feels like I am just reaffirming who I think I am. And so that's my struggle. I'm always trying to capture this rushing stream that I really enjoy, that I really see beauty in. And as soon as you scoop up a river in a cup, it's just still water, and it's not really the river that you wanted to share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, just check my Wi-Fi for a second. Okay. Okay. So let's break that down a little bit. So first, can you just allow yourself to feel how much love of your life you've been experiencing lately? So I hear your mind jumps to like, and I got to share it, but let's just slow that down. First, just bask in the abundance that you've been experiencing. Family, creativity, old friends, new opportunities. And just for a moment, almost as if you let every cell in your body get to enjoy that rushing river of flow you've been experiencing. And we'll just stay here a little longer. And then what I hear is often you experience that, and then a thought comes in, I need to share it, or I should share it, or I want to share it. So see if you can just notice that thought as its own experience, that I want to, I need to, I should, all those flavors. And just notice what that feels like. And what do you notice in your physical body or your emotions?
Well, that thought always breaks the flow.
Yeah.
And it always separates, and I've had that feeling a lot in big experiences or meditation, or even in like falling asleep and being on the edge of dreams. And then you realize like, oh, I'm having a dream. And then the dream kind of stops because you're focused on the having of the dream. And so it is what it is. I recognize how it disrupts that flow.
Okay. So a couple things. So one, I learned this from one of my teachers named Gay Hendricks. And it's this idea that we all have a certain amount of capacity for energy in our nervous systems. And we usually learn that from our families. So in each of our families, there was only so much joy or anger or emotion that was sort of role modeled or allowed. And, they often will say something like, you'd always want to go to the kid's house your friend's house where the parents would let you do anything, or, you could jump off the bunk beds, or a place where there was a little more energetic capacity. But all of us sort of learned a nervous system limit. And so that works both, let's say, positive emotions, like how much joy we're used to experiencing. I mean, joy is literally energy running on the wires of our nervous system. And just like any piece of machinery, the machine needs to be able to handle the amount of voltage. And our nervous systems often aren't practiced at holding more and more voltage. And that can also work with other high voltage emotions like anger, where we only can allow so much before we try and close our system down because it's overwhelming. And so the first thing I would say is first, just allow that thought, I need to share it. It actually might be your nervous system stopping the flow because it's a little intense. Like there's a lot good happening. I'm not used to this right now. And so let me think of something that will help me. What you notice, it actually stems the flow. It is a dam, but it's not wrong. It's just a habit or a break that you've created to get yourself back to a comfortable, energetic flow. So one of the ways to work with that is just when you're feeling that abundance and love, just as best you can to let yourself feel it more. whether that's go on a walk and just feel it, or take a nap and feel it, or fold some laundry or do some dishes, something grounding. Will you just let yourself feel the expansiveness? Because that will train your nervous system. Wait, I'm feeling more joy and more love, and I'm still okay. I don't have to live under the bound that I was raised in, that our parents were probably raised in. You know, that stuff is all passed down, so no one's to blame. But we, as you know, adults in our own bodies, actually have the ability to grow our capacity. So that would be the first thing, is you still can share it. You can still record it. You can do the next step, but just to take a little bit more time with your receiving of it first.
Yeah. So I want to just bring this up real quick, because it's something that's been on my mind more and more. And I know that I've talked to you about it, but there's a concept that has stuck with me for years. And it's about two different ways of, let's just call it enlightenment, two different ways of experiencing enlightenment. And you can see this actually in different practitioners of things like meditation, or different, sects of religious practice. And there are those that seek enlightenment, but they seek it for themselves and kind of in isolation. And in Buddhism, they call that a pratyeka Buddha. It's a private Buddha. And I kind of think of that like someone who it's like Chris McCandless, that story, the kid who knows there's a bigger world out there. So he jumps into the raging river and he ends up alone in the wilds of Alaska. And he's in flow, he's in this experience, but it's really kind of private. Versus this concept of a bodhisattva, which is someone who has kind of got that glimpse, had that view of beauty, seen that bigger picture of the world, and then chooses to engage and to just be human and to live a simple life with people, with friends, but to really be in participation. And I find that there are a lot of remarkable people that are very private, and there are a lot of very public people that are maybe not sharing the most remarkable things. And so this is sort of the same problem to me, is kind of being stuck in this nexus of private enjoyment. When I'm done with this call, I can just close the computer. I can take my dog on a walk. I can have a big, wonderful night, and I'm getting to be filled by that. Or I can struggle with the process. I can learn ways of communicating and sharing and creating content. I could write something, I could draw something, and I could put that out there. And that, for whatever reason, to me feels like it has increased tangibility. That's, I could take my dog on a million walks, but at some point I want to share with another person or people that positivity, that experience, like what it, not documenting the walk necessarily, but just putting that energy back into the people around me. And I think that's sort of twisted up in this too, is that it would be so easy to just not worry about this at all. Yet there's that strong desire to figure it all out
and to share.
Yeah, and to share.
Yeah. So a moment ago, I had you just feeling the abundance in your life. Mm-hmm. So in this moment, can you also feel your desire to share? Just notice the part of you that wants to flow goodness. And keep feeling that. We're going to go back and forth a little bit. So allow yourself to want to feel all the abundance in your life, to have a happy life full of joy and connection, to be the recipient or the channel through which joy flows. And then also allow yourself to want to support other people to feel what you're feeling, to flow that joy out. And also notice any sense the mind would say that those are mutually exclusive. Just notice any sense that there's some trade-off between feeling abundant and getting it all out there and sharing. And just noticing that this story of which kind of, I don't know the word, but like which kind of Buddhist, whether I'm for self or for other, like that delineation can create some confusion. And just noticing that you, Ryan, are someone who wants to both experience an amazing life and share that abundance with others both. And so with that, there's not that much to figure out if you keep allowing those two things to be true. One thing I also heard you say, what's happening?
I feel feels.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And often when I start to feel the feelings, my analogy in my world is the ice is melting. Like there's some place that's been hard or stuck. And it's that stuckness or that hard place. I'm doing this because I was working on one myself this morning. There's this density I was noticing when I was working on something, and it starts to melt. And sometimes it melts out our eyes. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything, happiness, sadness. It's just the movement, the flow. Something's moving now that was stuck before. One other thing I just want to name before we leave it is that thought you said, I'm feeling all this abundance and then I want to share it. And then that can sometimes stop the flow. And I just want to open to the possibility that like that thought is actually a stick in the river. It's not really stopping the flow. It's just the next piece of flow, this desire to share, that now that's coming up. And we can be with that in the same way. Like, wow, everything's amazing. Oh God, I need to share it. Oh, I'm having that, oh God, I need to share a feeling. Can I just allow myself to feel that too as part of the flow? It only kind of breaks the flow when we listen to it as a directive. Now I have to go do something about it. And then we're not really free to choose. Do I want to do something about it? Or what could I do about it?
So maybe I can get your opinion on this, because that stickiness, for me, it kind of comes one step farther down the road, because my road trip is a great experience. I was having these amazing days of just like hanging out in nature, these amazing thoughts. And I would have that, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to share these thoughts, open up the recorder, record a, 10-minute long video that's just gushing with all of these ideas. And then it sits on the phone, and then I watch it later. And then I wonder like, oh, was this actually valuable? Is this just a crazy person on the side of the hill? Am I the double rainbow guy? Like what, and is this what people want from me? And then it gets kind of tangled back in that eddy. Cause again, like I feel pretty good I am in flow a lot. I am having these amazing experiences a lot, and I am documenting them a lot. It's that letting go of the consequence for going out on a limb, or just, having intention, doing something, and then putting it out in the world, and then just walking away and not getting stuck to it as it gets, it's a stick, but it's dragging down the river and it's dragging part of me with it. Now I feel like I have to babysit this thing, and where is it going to take me? I think that's probably my biggest challenge, because I haven't posted anything in 2 months, but I've probably recorded 20 videos of different types in 2 months. And just for whatever reason, that part of it, that letting go, I have a hard time doing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's work with that. So let's take that video that you recorded after your road trip, and you watched it later. And then in that moment, there was some hesitation. Should I post it or not? Is that right?
Yeah. And I'm always feeling like I need to seek validation from someone else to tell me like, yeah, that's good. And I'm like, okay, it's good.
Yeah. So when I hear that, I hear there's at least two parts of you. The one who wants to post it and just put it up and it goes where it goes and you move on to the next thing. And then there's another one part of you that wants to make sure that whatever you're creating is really of value to people. And you want to know what people want so that what you're offering is actually a match. Is that right?
Yeah. It's like I've had this amazing experience and I'm putting it forward in the hopes that it will help someone, it will give someone a glimpse of beauty or a different way of looking at something. And then
So let's just pause
yeah,
there before
yeah.
you go on. So that's one part. So first, just allow that. So there's part of you that wants to share this glimpse of beauty, and we'll use that specific video just so you can kind of land yourself in that experience. So just allow the part of you that wanted to share that video before you go into the other part. So just, this trip was amazing. I want to share this way of looking at the world, and just give yourself permission to want to share that as best you can. And then another voice comes in that stops you from posting. And what does that voice say?
It asks, would it be better or would it be safer to just not?
And safer in what sense?
I think it gets back to that that desire to do what I'm doing well and to actually communicate the things that I feel like I'm trying to communicate. Is this moving me closer to communicating that, or is it making it more confusing? Is it, how am I showing up? And so it's often easier for me to post in these moments when I am really like ungrounded. Like I think I've been able to post so much content over the last year because I felt really unclear in my own identity, and my, a lot of that was shifting. So it's like, this doesn't matter. And it was really easy to just let those things go, or to show up, wild-eyed and, messy on a Wednesday when I'm in an existential crisis, sharing my thoughts with people. And as I've actually kind of got back into my more structured self, there's more of that like concern about, doing things well, or this leading somewhere where I am supported in making my art, and I am supported in having these conversations.
Yeah. Okay. So there's part of you that watched that video and wasn't sure that this was moving you in the direction you mean to be going. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, and well, first just allow that. So allow yourself to feel unsure sometimes. And again, a lot of us, when we feel unsure, we want to get to certainty. Certainty is comfort. Uncertainty is discomfort for most of us. So just for now, notice you're not exactly sure which videos are getting you closer to your goal. And what if it's okay to not be sure? Just allow that for a moment. And I also heard a part of you that wants to make sure you're doing it really well. So like a bit of, is this good enough? And so just allow your desire for good enough. You want your videos to be great, and just let that be okay. And then we'll go back to the first part of you that just wants to share. You just want to share things you think are great, put them out there, and then keep creating, keep moving. And just let yourself want to kind of be creating quickly and confidently to coexist with wanting to create really intentionally and correctly, or well is the word I heard. And so most of us, as you're sort of noticing that, when we're stuck, it's because we think we have two mutually exclusive needs. And when I'm listening to people, I'm often listening to those places where, wait, I want to just be creating fast and learning and making mistakes and getting information and creating more. That's one tendency. And there's wisdom in that. And then there's another one's like, I want to be creating great things and be moving in the direction I'm trying to go. And there's wisdom in that too. And then we can get paralyzed because the mind will go, let's just create something. Okay, I'm going to record. Okay, I'm recording. And then the other part goes, that's not exactly perfect. We shouldn't post that. And then the other part goes, but I just want to be recording. And we go back and forth. And suddenly 2 months have passed with lots of recordings and nothing posted, because those two are kind of at war with each other. So in this way of working with it, it's going to be a little bit unsatisfying because we're not going to get to a solution, but we're just going to start allowing those two parts of you, the creative, I'm just going to put a canvas up in my garage and start painting, that just wants to go. That part is a worthwhile part to nurture. And it actually can coexist with the one that wants to create great things. Just allowing them both to be here and see if they can start holding hands a little bit instead of fighting.
It's funny because I feel like I've learned, or I've heard a lot of these lessons. And my friend, who's an artist, was here recently, and we were looking at some of my art and talking about collaborations. And he is just like the poster child for go with the flow, like letting things go, like something comes, something goes. And so I've been embodying that in, like you described. Like I did bring a bunch of paints and canvases out here the other day, and just like, you know, it was very much the same practice, but reduced into this little square where, you know, it doesn't look how I want, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. And by the time you get to a certain point, you know, all the layers are there and it actually looks really beautiful. But if you would have just regarded it, you know, 40 minutes ago, it wasn't good. It wasn't finished. And so I think that I'm armed with a lot of these mindsets to start that process again in this space with conversations. And I'm curious your opinion on this. One of the things that I've been thinking is that one of the challenges, and I can welcome it as just a reality, is that I've been doing things in the same way. So I've been getting the same results, and those same obstacles of just coming out here in the garage by myself and trying to record and then, you know, re-record ends me in the same place, versus, you know, this is different, having a conversation with you, because now the whole dynamic has changed and I actually feel really great about this conversation and I'm less likely to be critical about it. So that's kind of where my mind has been going, is just by these little changes in how I'm doing the things I'm doing. Maybe I can still welcome those critics and internal conflict makers, but I'm not going to get stuck in that same loop because I'm just by myself, and I can do 20 takes and watch an entire day, you know, go out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So that's great. You're pointing to something I've been putting a lot of attention on lately, which is, so a lot of us want to grow. We want to expand, right? But our mind is actually a record of the past. The mind is basically everything we've experienced so far. So all the mind can really do is project what it's already experienced onto the future. So I heard you say it earlier, you know, in 2 months from now, after I'm directionless for a while, this is going to happen. That's just the mind saying, this is what's happened in the past. So it's my best guess is what's going to happen in the future. But as growing, expanding beings, we're actually growing into new territory. Otherwise it wouldn't be growth. We're becoming something different. That's awesome, except the mind doesn't know how to manage unknown. It's like, you've trained me to handle these situations. I don't know how to handle this new situation. I knew how to run my business for 10 years, but now I'm in this new landscape. I'm trying to use my old tools in this new way. Mm-hmm. And so the mind will freak out a little bit. But what you're talking about, which is like experimenting or trying some small new things, starts to, again, get us a little bit comfortable with, I'm in a new territory. And I actually think the benefit of getting stuck. So these two parts, you have the part that's like, I just want to flow my creativity. And this other part's like, I want to create a great high quality YouTube channel. When we're stuck, it's because I think they both have some wisdom. And when we think I'm just going to do it this way, which is an old way, or I'm just going to do it this way, which is an old way, there's nothing new that can be created. So when we allow them to coexist, what would it be like to both flow creatively and have an attention to great content that meets the needs of the people who are here? What would that be like? And you won't have an answer right away. It's more like a feeling. And then you find yourself suddenly in a new style of conversation because all you know is you're not going to do it the old way. That didn't work. I need to do something new. So let's add a friend to the conversation and see what that does. And so stuckness, I just had an analogy come to my mind. So let's say we had like a bunny and a lion staring at each other. From the lion's perspective, all it can see is bunny. And from the bunny's perspective, all it can see is lion. So like you sort of like when you're jumping back and forth to either side, you can only see half the picture. But when you step out and you're like, oh, there's a bunny and a lion, your perspective is now shifted and you're just more available to more information than when you're locked in to these two. And most of us know when we're stuck, the mind goes, yeah, I should do this because no, but I shouldn't be, but I should because, and we just do this ping pong thing. And this invites us to just allow both. And I don't know what happens once we see a lion and a bunny, but I do know it's a new perspective.
I know it's not great for the bunny.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is great. You have some skills, but you're also on a threshold of new creation. So that means that you might just have to experiment a little. And the only thing you know is when you're stuck. Well, the way I look at it is when I'm stuck, it's because there's voices in me that have wisdom that I'm not really welcoming. Like I might shame the part of me that is a perfectionist because it's keeping me from posting videos. And as long as I keep saying that's wrong, that's bad, I should just get out there and post. And I'm shaming this part that might have some information or some wisdom in it. That's like, in this case, maybe it's saying like, post with people. Who knows what it has to say? Don't post this video of yourself or something like that. But if we don't allow it, we can't get the information that might be hiding underneath it.
Yeah. I think that through conversations like this one and many others that we've had that are similar, I feel really good. I feel present in my experience, which is that first part that you were talking about. And I definitely feel that urge to share. And I think this in and of itself, this conversation is a gift in that I've just been looking for something to kind of come back and share with people. And I love that it's the story of why I haven't shared more up to this point. And maybe now, because these ideas are at the forefront in this conversation, it might even be a common point of reference for this community in my mind that, that grappling with what is the direction of this channel? What do people want versus what do I want? And all right, I know what I want. I'm making it, but is it good enough? Is it, putting me in the right direction? It might be fun now with this conversation being had to just see how that plays out. And I have been in this huge gust of wind, and I have been talking with highly creative people. I've been having great conversations, and I'm willing to get messy, and I'm willing to be honest about my imperfections in this space, and just start kind of opening up that trickle again, and just put out things that I have intention behind, and then let them go and let them be, and then move on to the next thing. Yeah.
And well, do you have a few more minutes? There's one other little thing I think would be fun to explore. Because it sounds like, okay, great. It sounds like when you're painting in your garage, the creativity can just flow. But I'm getting the sense that suddenly when you add an audience, there may be something that's happening. So it's not as easy when you have people that are here consuming. Does that feel true?
Yeah. Yeah. The artist and the audience go together. And I think it's it's easy when you have an intended recipient for something.
Mm.
Like I'm writing a letter to my son or my daughter or my sister, and I have, wisdom to share or perspective, and it's clear who's getting it. And that's a great way to make art, having a muse, having someone that inspires you, or holding that observer in the creative process, I think can be really beneficial. I have been challenged in this space because my audience, or my perceived audience, is made up of a handful of people whose names I know, people who have reached out to me that I have conversations with that are, I know that they're probably watching everything that I put out, and that's really special to me. But I know that they're probably like 0.1% of this bigger mass of people. And, I think I was telling you this is sitting on my desk, and this kind of messes with my head. I got this from YouTube while I was in the midst of really trying to figure out, what am I trying to do here? And, that number to me is it's a huge group of people for whom I want to deliver something of value.
Mm.
And I get these different pieces of feedback. If I put out a market analysis, it'll have tons of comments that are all, cross analysis, and people really get benefit from that. And then if I put out a heartfelt, thing about my relationship and what I think about this, that, or the other, it'll be much smaller engagement, but it feels more meaningful. And so that's my answer to you in this whole thing, is the audience is hugely a part of it. Because I do want to, I don't know, I want to provide something that's worth the time it took to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. So just in this moment, just see if you can just allow yourself to kind of tune into or imagine your subscribers, the people who may be watching your channel. And just allow yourself to want to speak to them and meet them as much as you do. Just allow the desire to create something that really serves be here. And then also allow yourself to just notice that you're not really sure how to do that right now. Different audience members seem to be attracted to different things. And just allow that confusion, that not knowing. And notice what it feels like to not know how to speak to 100,000 people. What does that feel like in your physical body?
It's a visceral reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking out on stage,
mm-hmm.
and that there's like thousands of people that are all staring at you, but you can't see any of them. And the mic is there, and it's, what do you say?
Yeah.
That's the feeling.
Yeah. So first we just slow it down and we notice, I want to please these people, or like satisfy, not please as in like people please, but I want to offer something of value, and I don't know how. Most of us run right past that feeling. Okay, I'll try this, I'll do that. We just get ourselves real busy rather than feel the discomfort of not knowing, that birthplace of creativity, the not knowing. So we're just going to welcome that for a minute. And then just allowing yourself to want to speak to everyone as much as you do. And again, allowing yourself not to know how to do that. And then also, if there's any sense like, I need to figure this out, I have to figure this out. Figuring out is one of our favorite ways to like try and control an issue. So just allowing the wanting to figure it out also.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if you let go as best you can of trying to read all our minds about what we want? Just let go of thinking you need to know what we want in order to create.
Hmm. Hmm.
What are you noticing?
Well, I was standing on that stage, and then it went from 1,000 unknown minds to just one, which was my own. And it felt like if I'm doing things that I enjoy, then that's my audience. Hmm.
And what if you do that, just feeling into it, and half the audience walks out? And just notice what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2/3.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I have always been bracing for that, which is actually an interesting little, I don't know, revelation. I mean, I've thought of this before, but in having something go viral and having people show up to hear a particular song, when people realize like, oh, you're not actually a concert pianist, then you have to be prepared to see all those people walk out. So it's almost like, and I feel like I have been like, I've seen this more as like a carving process than a building process. 180,000 people show up, and I know that by the end it could be only, like you said, 1/3 or even less that actually want to hear the real performance. But I've been caught between wanting to keep it all and actually embracing just it being simpler, smaller, more authentic.
Or even now 2/3 of your seats are empty for people who actually want to come see what you are creating. And I just want to point out, and we're going to just spend one more minute here. You said, I know that people might leave. And that's a really different thing to know that people leave because you're not a concert pianist, to actually feel the feeling of abandonment when 2/3 of your audience get up and walk out when you start sharing your heart.
Yeah. It's it is funny that some of the videos that I am the most proud of, the metrics go the other way. You post something really meaningful and 2,000 people leave in a week.
Mm-hmm.
That fucks with you. But
so before you say but,
yeah,
just stay there for a minute. It that's a real vulnerability to share something you're proud of and to have people leave. No wonder you're bracing to avoid having that happen. That is a crappy feeling. And as long as you're afraid of feeling it, it's going to be hard to share your heart, because if you share your heart and people leave, you're going to have to feel it again. So what we're doing in this moment is, can you share your heart, have people leave, and can you still be okay? Just notice you can feel heartbroken and okay at the same time.
mm-hmm.
And now you're sharing your heart to maybe a smaller audience. And what does that feel like?
Well, I just want to say on this that and I get stuck to this story. So I know this is something that I'm just working through, but I got fired from the company I started after putting so much passion, time into that. So that was a huge rejection of myself. I did go through a period with my partner where we were not in a great place, and it was another rejection of myself as a human. And then this is sort of that as well, that it's like you strive to be your authentic self. You put yourself into that flow and that life, and then you flow from your center, and then the world, I don't know, you can see it this way, that the world kind of tells you like, well, that was wrong, it wasn't enough, you're not actually a good entrepreneur, you're not actually a good husband, you're not actually a good content creator, artist. But that feeling that you said where, you just keep doing it and there's a much smaller group there to see it. I mean, that's reflected in this last year's experience, that, yeah, my world went from, all of these employees around me, like me as the leader, to, a smaller kind of family unit to then even that was like, it was just myself. And then I started finding those friends that just loved me unconditionally. And, that kind of was able to re-expand. Like it had to collapse down to literally just myself and accepting myself. It's one of the hardest things I've done in the last year. But once you get down to just that audience member, then you can start putting, you're open to those other relationships. Mm-hmm. And that's probably why I felt okay just being radio silent for 2 months, because my audience is that small right now. And really the opinions that matter, I'm holding that in just a couple hands. And it feels like once that overflows and overflows and overflows, that's what will make it back out to the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I hear your story, it feels full of hope. And the only, let's say, like river to cross or mountain to climb in this phase of your hero's journey, like being able to withstand rejection and keep creating anyway. It's almost like so many of us have what our big fear is: abandonment, rejection, failing, being too selfish, or something we just do not want to face or feel. And so rather than live our authentic, like fully expressed life, we create a life to avoid feeling that one thing. Mm-hmm. And so one thing we're doing here is actually, it might be every time you see somebody unsubscribe. And I know you mentally like, this is a good thing. Like I'm getting the audience to the right audience when someone unsubscribes, but also just allowing the feeling of rejection. Like it also hurts when someone unsubscribes. I'm a content creator. I know that feeling. It just doesn't feel great, but when we allow it and then we know we're okay, it doesn't stop us or have us sit there wondering for 2 hours whether I should post a video or not, because I'm afraid of losing people. So I actually think welcoming the feeling of rejection, starting to get to know it much more intimately, might be a real service. You might get down, like you said, to one audience member, but you'll still know I'm creating what I want to create on purpose. And then anyone else who walks into this auditorium or tells a friend to walk in actually belongs here now.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And you're so right about that. Like we avoid these things relentlessly, and we find ourselves just in strange places from that avoidance, versus probably the reality of it is nowhere near as bad as what we expect it will be.
Or it's awful, but they don't last that long.
Yeah.
That's what I've sort of learned.
Or it's awful, but then you find yourself in the next phase and there's good things happening. So awful can be a bridge too.
Yeah. I just want to share for anyone for whom this resonates. There's this tiny little book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer that this topic in particular, just it explains it in a way that really, I read it about 10 years ago. It's really changed the course of my life. So I just want to offer that too as a resource for anyone for whom this is resonating. That's the place where I've learned about the way we can construct a whole life out of avoiding one feeling.
So here's my question for you, because I could talk to you indefinitely. Like this could go on until the late hours of the night. At some point we flow to the next thing. How do you do that gracefully? How do you take all of the, the self-work, the meditation, the kind of sitting with these things, and then transition back into that active phase?
Well, one thing I've noticed is, I've gone through my own dark nights, and, let's say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I would have a thought like, I'm not doing anything worthwhile with my life. My life is all wrong. And that phase would last about 6 months or a year, where I get caught in anxiety, depression, this darkness. I'd really believe that thought. And then as I've been practicing with work like this, for example, the thought, how do I transition gracefully? Now I notice, there's just the thought, I want to transition gracefully. It doesn't mean anything. I don't have to listen to it. I don't actually have to do anything with that. It's just suddenly a contraction. And the thought, I want to transition gracefully. And the more I've been doing this work, I notice it as a thought, as an emotion, or as a body sensation, or sometimes all three. So either it's a tightening, a feeling, or a thought. And more, the more I do this work, the more I see it as that. So I don't know how I'm going to transition. We'll get off this call and the body's going to do what it does. It might go up and have a meal with my partner. It might lay down on the couch. I'm not exactly sure just yet, but I am trying these days. I just practice letting the thoughts come and go, letting the contractions come and go, letting the emotions come and go. So now when I have a thought, like I'm wasting my life, I'm not doing anything, I can get caught in that for about, on a bad day, 3 hours. But that's really different than like a year. And I've just noticed that's a thought, it's a feeling, it feels really true, it feels really scary. Maybe I'm crying, maybe I'm calling a friend and being like, I'm having these thoughts, can you just hold space while they move through? Until it's kind of like the sun and the clouds, people's favorite analogy, but like the sun's always there and eventually the clouds pass. You're like, it's sunny again. In my experience, we don't have to create the sun. We just need to wait out the clouds sometimes. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. Well, I really, this thing that I'm sharing with you and with all of you, this is my heart's work. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share it with you, Ryan, and to share it with more people for whom it might resonate. A lot of what we've done here today is based on something called the Sedona Method. That's been my primary practice for the last 10 years. And it's totally changed my life. And so it just feels like such a privilege and a gift to get to be able to share it in this way. Really, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, I cannot put into words how grateful I am that you appeared in my life in the way that you have. And you are very skillful with your own life living and the way that you're able to just work with others, myself included, just as a friend and just casually. And yeah, it's, I can't overstate the impact that you've had in this whole story. And I'm thrilled that I get to have this conversation with you and share it. Awesome.